I'm Jason Lapidus, co-creator of Group of Seven and Peregrines, and I'm on a mission. Join me in my never-ending journey to continue leveling up. Welcome, comics readers, makers, and fans. In this episode, I'm taking a look at The Mighty Thor 337 by Walt Simonson to see what I can learn to help me get closer to mastering the craft. Keep in mind, this is not intended to be an exhaustive examination of Thor comics or their history or Walt Simonson's history, but a brief look at 2 or 3 of the elements that I can learn from, and maybe you can too. And don't miss the time-lapse drawing session at the end. But before we dive in, you can support the channel by reading our books. 7 famous historical figures on a secret fictional mission to save the world. Group of 7, a most secret tale. A team of spies double as frontline nurses to defend against the unknown and unbelievable. Peregrines, Flights, Fiends, and Fisticuffs, both by writer Chris Sanigan and art by yours truly. Both for sale in print and digital formats on our website, groupofsevencomics.ca. There you can also subscribe to our newsletter and stay up to date on upcoming comics, appearances, and episodes. Thank you so much for your support. Of course, you can check out our other show on this channel, Previously in X-Men, where we look back at the X-Men comics that became classic. We're basically reading the entire Chris Claremont run on the series and looking at how that series laid the groundwork for every multimedia version of the X-Men, like the animated series, the 13 feature film franchise from Fox and now Marvel, as well as video games, countless action figures, and of course more and more spin-off comics. It feels like they're all kind of pulling from that Claremont run, and so we are 181 episodes into that 181 episodes into that read through and having a laugh, enjoying ourselves, doing all the voices, and really having fun on a Tuesday night. We have a fun live chat going on at the same time with lots of regulars, and it's been a lot of fun to do this for the last few years. So you should join in live on Tuesday nights. Walt Simonson's run on Thor holds a special place in my heart for a few reasons. Firstly, let's just look at the broader context for a moment. This seems to have been the first significant impact into the Mighty Thor as a series from a creator in over 10 years. Second thing of note was I missed this series completely as a kid. I wasn't into reading comics by 1983, but by 85 I was. All I can see is that in my sketchbooks of that time period, a lot of Thor pictures start showing up. I'm doodling Thor a lot between classes, or during class for that matter. So something was resonating with me as a kid when I saw Simonson's Thor in a few of the ads. I thought the house brand version of the character looked really generic and bland. And once I saw more of Simonson's energetic line, abstraction of the anatomy and form and power lines, as well as maybe the warrior nature coming through better in his artwork, it started to erase the preconceptions I had of Thor as basically a godly do-gooder in primary colors. This episode is also different than some of the other ones where I'm comparing 3 different versions. Before me, we have the comic as it was originally printed in 1983, first appearance of Beta Ray Bill, which is not really what we're discussing here, but it will, of course, be visually very present. So we have the comic as it was originally printed in 83. We have a remastered, quote-unquote, colorized version. We have a remastered colorized version from 2017. And we have the Walt Simonson's The Mighty Thor Artisan Edition from 2020. If you are a fan of artist editions and artisan editions, you'll notice how many come from Walter Simonson. This might be because he did not sell his original art. So with a lot of other creators, to put together a book like this, Special Projects editor Scott Doombier would have to track down all those original pages across the world, mostly across the US, either scan or receive scans, high-res scans of each of those pages. In Simonson's case, he has all the original artwork. If you're not familiar with an artisan edition, they are presentations of original artwork scanned at high resolution. These are incredible volumes for learning about comic book production, as well as the several crafts that go into making comics, specifically drawing and inking. The question of the day for me is, what is the best way to read this run on Thor? Is it, in the original comic book, the much more accessible trade paperback remastered color versions, or the two artist editions that have been published so far? The main criteria that I'm thinking about for the best reading experience is the color. Obviously, there's no color on this. There is the yellowing of the original paper, but I'm referring to the art itself, which is intended to be used for production and turned into black and white. Simonson is taking the language as created by Jack Kirby for things like fire and cosmic power and all these energy effects. He's taking it and expanding on it and making it very much his own. Like, this looks like Walt Simonson, but it also clearly looks like it's pulling from Kirby. He creates these really nice abstract shapes that is energy crackling off and moving. So it creates both the sense of energy, power, but also movement. So these shapes are created, but then he's coming back in with white media and creating all these dots, which I'm reading as stars too. In the original comic, it looks like that. Because of the yellowing of the paper, that's now the baseline, right? That's the whitest white we're going to get. But now look at in these flame effects or energy effects. It goes from that really subtle yellowing of the paper into like an orange, and then you get into the 100% magenta mixing with the 100% yellow to create that red. Oh, that red is the 100% of both. But it's like a graduated progression almost. I mean, there it doesn't blend extremely well, but it blends enough. Here it's fantastic. Looks really, really, really good. The remastered color version, what's happening now is they're looking at the original comics and they're taking liberties. This is not the same as, let's say, a digital comic or just a simple digital version of the originals where they look at what the plates were and they just mimic them digitally. This crew, which is Steve Oliff and all the optics, are doing an interpretation using digital tools in software like Photoshop to create these effects. My bottom line with this looks like someone cares. I think it looks great. Gorgeous. I love as this creature who we know, spoilers to be Surtur, as he's moving the tongs with this piece he's working on. Simonson has gone and added again the white media there to create that effect. He's so good with his ink textures. Awesome. Nice red backgrounds to help make Blake's blue jacket pop, help him come forward. So the colors are very warm and they're bright. Now here we get the park. They've changed his jacket color and then changed the sky or the background to that sky color, which is a very straight read. Allows the red of the car to pop now. A much more contemporary approach than Thor in his full color glory. Now off to Asgard. Even in these colors, you're getting a lot of black in the color choices. So black is coming in the ink, which is making characters like Heimdall really quite dark and brooding, and still beautiful when you add the rainbow or characters like Sif, who's in red. And once we get into the power, I mean, this stuff just illuminates. Some people really dislike this kind of color treatment, changing what was in the original comic, but there is an element of making those original comics precious when we do that. As if a lot of time and care and intentionality were put into elements like color choices, when that might not be the case. Let's compare these two. Evening sky, obviously a very, very straightforward kind of literal blue sky. Looks like over water on this one, clearly over land with water off in the distance. So there are some creative choices being made. Note Simonson is signing this one. Very cool. I think he thinks it's a page worth noting. I'm a fan. I like that. So here, choices are made to light it completely differently. Here on Sif's face, we see the highlight on her left side. Here, her left side is in shadow. I'm awarding points to this one completely. I mean, having the illumination on the side, kind of going across the panel, is much more interesting than having the illuminated part of her being off panel. But look how it's graying up here and here. Here it's an orange instead. Not saying one's better or worse in that case. Heimdall. This one's, I mean, lots of browns are being used in both, but none of these colors have any black in their mix. It's all just amounts of cyan, magenta, and yellow. There's absolutely black in the mix here. But space and the rainbow bridge in the background, quite muted. Here, oh wow. It's incredible. With this ship, it's called Scuttlebutt. It's spoilers again, it's Beta Ray Bill's ship. That's Star Wars has been out now for a couple years, right? 6 years. Star Trek motion picture's been out. I believe Wrath of Khan has already been out. So we've seen big budget special effects of ships moving through space. This works pretty well too, having more than one color, also going from that lavender, that purple into a yellow, changing these stars and planets from like yellow to blue, or here energy or comet as the ship flies by. Just interesting to make these choices. These two are quite close, but sometimes colorists they can be compulsive, not to leave a flat color, but to add an element of shade. Nothing wrong with that one. Just look at the effect coming from these blasters. It's not illuminating up the machinery, but here it's illuminating all these edges. Other place of choices, like I think that looks really good on its own. I see the original one. Like that looks good too. They both read really well, but it's like just a different series of choices. It is definitely a reinterpretation. Olaf and Ollie Optics go with earthy colors on everything that is, made of stone. If we look at here, how this space is interpreted, again, really different. Like this one is more psychedelic, looks more like a trippy Ralph Bakshi cartoon, like when Spidey would go to those other dimensions, or Lord of the Rings, or Fire and Ice. Again, much more grounded. Now we get the reveal of Beta Ray Bill. No question, this is more vibrant and some different choices, right? Here's the boldest red we get, and it's just that accent piece on the knee. Here it's all the way up and all the way down the arm. So it is a change. No backgrounds here, backgrounds on both. And that fading technique, from dark into light in the back, where here it's different colors. Here there's a purple being used into a light blue at different times, but it's not a digital blending effect. Here it is. Let's take a look at the original art. One of the benefits of seeing scans of original art like this, you get to again see how Simonson has gone and whited out to create that hair. I bet you he's taking out lines, simplifying. The lines are incredibly crisp in this kind of edition. You really get a sense of his pen strokes, brush strokes, etc. Not a single scratch or detail gets lost here. There he is. And this looks better than either of the other two versions in color, to my eye. Like I could look at this all day. I am called Bill. Beta Ray Bill. He thinks Thor is a demon. Like, rise up, demon. That's awesome. And then this is so cool. Odin there. Really dramatic reds. Help separate these cool colors of Blake and the ship, the wreckage, from that dramatic, passionate background. Even though it's a rainstorm, we would not get those colors. I guess it's kind of part of the fire and smoke and whatever. It reads beautifully. He's obsessed with these fade backgrounds. I think they're kind of gross, actually, by this point. Give me an open panel. I'm totally fine with that, or some silly color. This space looks really boring and drab to me, too. I do love the vibrant colors when they come, though. Like this background and this one. Again, sky gotta be blue. I understand. Came out beautiful, both these ones. A much more literal Odin. Almost looks like he's giant and there, as opposed to a vision. Like a ghostly or spiritual vision. He looks like he's right there. The texturing, on Scuttlebutt, it looks really good. Like, I like that. So there are some real strong points about these kinds of techniques. Most of this is still cool and it's grayed out. Lots of black is added. I'm curious about these white lines that are under the wind, if they are added by the colorist or if they're on the original art. Like a gold metal effect around, like a gold band around the father. So unnecessary. But keeping that warm background, cool foreground. He's too dark though, I think. That white line, they're there. They're in his artwork. So he went over and made these lines in black and then went over and made them in white, came in with white paint after. White out of some kind. Lighten it up. Nothing here, right? This is John Workman lettering. For me, I think that 4-color process, these flat comics, they do a few things that I really prefer. One, they limit the amount of choices that a creator has, and sometimes those limitations can create moments of brilliance. These colors force the colorist, the artist involved, just to think about clarity. And since comics is a language, being understood is the key concern of communication in any language. This approach to color forces the colorist to spend their time thinking about clarity as opposed to special effects. Looking at these colors now, after doing a comparison, I like them less than I originally did. But it is the most practical way to read the series. If I could only choose one way to read every issue of Walt Simonson's Thor, I would always choose the original art. The original art is not available in artist edition for all of us. So in that case, I'm going to say that the original printed comics are the way to go for someone like me who is, again, in love with that flat 4-color style of the 1980s. The trade paperback versions of these, thoroughly enjoyable. I still would recommend. And if you're willing to spend the money on a couple artist editions and have collected the originals, nothing wrong with having the trade paperbacks as your reader copies. Although the 5th one is very, very, very hard to find. I've yet to track it down. What do you think? Are you a fan of that 1980s coloring the way I am? Have you collected any of these old Thor comics? Let me know in the comments below. Please don't forget to click like and subscribe to the channel. In terms of Walt Simonson's line art and the way he tells stories, let's save that for another episode. We can talk about perhaps his run on Fantastic Four or go deeper into Thor. If you have a preference on that, again, let me know in the comments. I've definitely learned a few things from reading these comics in their various forms. What about you? What have you learned that I haven't mentioned? Add to the comment section below this video, and I'll see you on the next episode of Leveling Up. Thanks for joining me.